Hey folks, Sheila here from Design Files. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to frame out a wall niche using the primary and secondary trims that are now available to you within the Design Files 3D Floor Planner. So in this case, we're going to build out a niche. We're going to be able to define what the texture is that's going to be added to the back of the niche, to the sides here, and you'll also be able to add a decorative trim to the surrounding edges just to finish it off. Now, the techniques that I share with you in this video can be used for creating built-in shelving units, or even if you wanted to do a shower niche as well, you would use the exact same techniques. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to basically replicate this niche on the opposite wall over here, and we're going to do it step by step. So I'm going to click on this wall, we're going to click to edit the surface, and that's going to bring us into the wall editor. First thing we need to do here is we got to be able to add some sort of texture or paint color to the wall. So I'm going to go to the material library. You can see that there's loads of different options for you to choose from. I'm just going to go into the paint library, into Pharaoh and Ball, and I'm going to search for the color light blue. I'm going to click on that, click on the wall, and it's going to fill that wall with that texture or with that paint color. Now the next thing that we have to do here is we have to extrude this wall out because we need to give it some depth for the niche. So I'm going to extrude the wall out 12 inches. It might look like nothing is happening here, but if I open up the 3D previewer here and I rotate this design around here, and we're just going to move it over, we'll zoom out a little bit, you can see the depth that I've added. So if I bring this back down to 1, that's what the wall looks like. We're going to add in some depth to it by increasing it 12 inches in, and that's going to create that thickness that we need for the actual niche. So now that I've done that, I'm going to just zoom in again a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. The next thing I'm going to do here is basically create the shape for the niche. So I'm going to pop over to the shape library here. I'm going to select the rectangular option, but there are different shapes. So if you wanted to do an arched niche, you could do that. I'm just going to take the rectangular one. I'll click once to activate it. I'll move out the mouse, and then I'll click again to release it. Now, if you want to adjust the overall size of your shape, you can just click on any of the edges and just kind of drag it in and out. So let's say we're going to make this 34 inches wide. We'll keep the 80 inches, and just for the sake of argument, let's say that I wanted to have this at 8 inches from the floor. I could use the left, right, and up, down arrows on my keyboard to shift it. Now that I've got the basic shape, the next thing I need to do is I need to apply a different finish to it. And I want this to be a wooden, like a wood finished niche. So I'm going to go back to the material library. I'm going to go to the wood category, wood textures. You'll see that there's loads to choose from. So just go ahead and select the one you want. I'm going to go into recents, and I'm going to apply the same one that I've already used on the other niche. And if I open up my 3D preview at this point and I rotate this around, you can start to see what this is looking like. So we've got that wood texture to the back edge of the niche, but now I need to apply it to the sides as well. And this is where the primary and the secondary trims start to come in really handy. So we're going to use the first one. We're going to add a primary trim. We'll click this checkbox right here. It's going to open up all of these different properties that will allow me to customize that piece of trim. Now, the first thing that you have access to is the ability to choose what type of trim you want. So there's a variety of different options. In my case, I just want something that's flat, square, because I basically just want to fill out the depth of this niche right here. So I don't need a decorative edge on that. So you can see there's a little white kind of border in this shape, and you can see that piece of trim in the 3D preview. Now, what I need to do is I need to adjust the piece of trim so that it fills the full thickness of this wall here. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to come down here to where it says trim height and depth. Now these are actually linked by default. So that means that if you edited the trim height, it's automatically also going to adjust the trim depth to keep the trim in proportion. If you don't want it to do that, you would unlink it. So I'm going to unlink it. And then I'm going to adjust the trim height to 12 inches, which is the same as the depth of the wall that I created. So it looks a little odd right now. It looks like this. But what I'm then going to do here is I'm going to use the trim rotation here to rotate it out 90 degrees. And then it's going to pop the trim out so that the full height is giving me the exact depth of that wall. So now I've basically covered all the inner edges, the inner sides of this niche. Now, the next thing I can do is I can go down to the trim finish. I'm going to edit that, and we're just going to go back to the wood, back to wood textures, into recents, and apply that same wood texture. And then that's going to fill in the inner edges. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply a piece of decorative trim molding to the outside, to the surrounding outside, just to finish this off. So the way that we would do that is by going all the way to the bottom here, where you have another checkbox for a secondary trim. So we're going to add that in now. And basically, we're going to kind of cover the same steps here. But one key thing to keep in mind is that if you can't see the secondary trim showing in your 3D preview here, it's because it's actually defaulted to outside of the shape here. So, and in my case, I've extruded this wall out 12 inches. So my trim's sitting behind this. So if I would just want to be able to quickly see it, I'm just going to push it to the inside. And then you're going to see that it's going to appear on the 3D preview right here. Okay. Now let's go back up. Now that we can see it, let's go back up here to our options. So I'm going to choose the trim style that I want. So we'll take something like this. You can see how it's showing here. Now what we need to do is we've got to use the trim offset here to bring this out 12 inches as well, because the depth of the wall is 12 inches and I want this trim to sit on the surface of this painted wall. So we're going to bring it out 12, and then I am going to push it to the outside of the shape because I don't want it partially covering the opening. So we're going to push it to the outside. And then what we'll do next is we're just going to apply the secondary trim finish. So we're going to edit this back into the wood option, wood textures. I'm going to go into recents and apply that same texture. And that is going to apply that to my decorative piece of trim that is framing out my niche. And that's it. So now I can save this and you can see what it starts to look like. Pretty cool. So the only other thing that I would bring to your attention here is that if you like the idea of adding shelves to your niche, you can do that within the wall surface editor, but I actually feel like it's a little bit faster and easier to create these shelves as individual custom objects. So I'm just going to take this box option right here, and we're going to make this, I think my niche was 34, so I'm going to make these 35 inches wide, and we'll do the depth of 12, and we're going to do a height of 1 for each of the shelves. I'm going to rotate this around, and then I'm going to apply the material that I want to it. I'm just going to go into recents and apply that same wood texture. And then for the texture, I'm going to rotate it so it's 90 degrees and going lengthwise instead of vertically there. So if I go back to 0, you'll see what this looks like. Let's just zoom in here. So I need this to go lengthwise. So we're going to do the rotation right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this back here, line it up with the wall here. Right about here. We'll slide it back. I know that my shelving, my niche is 8 inches up from the floor. And I also know that it is 80 inches high. So I'm going to make my shelves at 20-inch intervals. So that means I'm going to account for the 8 inches up from the floor and then 20 inches from that. So if I go here to adjust the distance from the floor, we'll do 28. I'm going to rotate this around a little bit so I can see what I'm dealing with here, and we'll zoom right in. And I'm just going to slide this back a little bit, right about there. And then what I'll do here is I'm going to duplicate that, place it again, and then we'll make this 48. And I'm going to rotate this, slide it out, right about there. And then we're going to duplicate it again, and we're going to do 68. I'll slide it out again. Right about there. Okay. Now, let's just zoom out a little bit, and we can see what this looks like. So there is my built-in framed niche added to the wall. Keep in mind, you can use this same technique if you are going to be creating any sort of niches within a bathroom and you want to frame it out with tile options. You can absolutely do that. So jump into your Design Files account, give this a try. Essentially, you're just going to make use of the primary and the secondary trim options that are now available to you within the wall surface editor. And if you have any questions at all about how to approach framing out niches or using the primary and secondary trim options within the wall surface editor, feel free to just reach out to us on the live chat. We're always happy to help. Thanks for watching.